Hello sports fans, Coach Carroll here with Sports Banner 38, and this video is going to be a recap of this past weekend's college football action. Sorry for the late video. I usually get this video out a day or two earlier, but between moving and all that good stuff, it's just been a little bit hectic, and I'll be moved this weekend. The internet question is a little bit shoddy at the moment. It doesn't look like I'm going to have as good an internet, but I should have good enough internet where I'll be able to make videos and get them uploaded without little issue. As far as doing live streams and stuff like that, it looks like I'm upgrading my phone, and more than likely I'll do get the YouTube app where I can do live streams like that. And we'll get it done however we have to do it, so no worries there. And anyway, let's get to the video, or get to the topic. What I'm going to do is just a brief run over the top 25 the games from this past weekend. I'm going to start with Penn State. They defeated Illinois 63-24. They're looking extremely good right now. Trace McSorley was 12 of 19 for 160 yards with 3 touchdowns and 1 interception, and he also ran for 92 yards on 15 carries. And who's Saquon Barkley, who plays for the Giants now? Well, they have a running back now, Sanders, who had 22 attempts for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. So they are doing just fine, which is setting up a huge game this week with Ohio State in Happy Valley. So that should be a big game coming up this Saturday night. Moving on, we got number 8 Notre Dame 56-27 over Wake Forest. They started a different quarterback in Ian Book, and he came in and he played great. 25 of 34 for 325 yards and 2 touchdowns. Notre Dame, with a quarterback who is more of a distributor and a passer, will be a huge deal for Notre Dame. They're already very strong defensively. Now they got balance offensively. I feel like this game with Stanford coming up this weekend will be a marquee ball game. And moving on. All right, we got Georgia 43-29 over Missouri. Of course, Drew Lock was 23 of 48 for 221 yards and 1 interception. They, for all intents and purposes, shut down Drew Lock, considering what he usually does. Of course, Jake Fromm 13 of 23, 260, 3 touchdowns with 1 interception. Holyfield had 90 yards on 14 attempts. Swift was 16 attempts for 71. Georgia's still strong. 43-29 win on the road against Missouri is not a bad win. Michigan defeated Nebraska 56-10. Nebraska really struggling right now. Scott Frost got a lot of work to do, but I'm sure he will get everything under control there. Moving on, Ohio State 49. Tulane 6. Dwayne Haskins continues to impress. He was 21 of 24 for 304 yards with 5 touchdowns. And then coming off the bench, you got Tate Martell at 10 of 14 for 115 yards. Martell also had 22 yards rushing with 1 touchdown. So Ohio State is just clicking. Not having Bosa in there is absolutely a factor, and that could definitely be a factor coming up this week against Penn State. But boy, what a game that's going to be. Moving on, Alabama took care of Texas A&M 45-23. Same old dominance that they've shown all year. Moving on, number 16 Miami defeated Florida International 31-7. Number 12 West Virginia 35-6 over Kansas State. And let's see, Will Greer was 25 of 35 for 356 yards, 5 touchdowns with only 2 interceptions. He continues to impress and keeps his Heisman campaign on track. Duke broke into the top 25, defeating North Carolina Central 55-13. Clemson newly signed, or they recently declared Trevor Lawrence as their starter. And for this game, Trevor Lawrence was 13 of 18, 176 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Excuse me, guys. Sorry about that. Really rough week. Moving and everything and working. It's kind of tough, but that's okay. Still enjoy doing these videos. Etienne was 11 attempts for 122 yards rushing with 1 touchdown. Clemson looking really good. I'm hearing out of the Clemson camp that Brian hasn't been coming to practice. That's telling me he's either transferring or he's just done playing. I don't know. I can't remember for sure if he's a senior or not. But that kind of puts a little bit of pressure on Clemson, because if Trevor Lawrence goes down, then you don't have Kelly Bryant, and he's by far and away better than the other quarterbacks on the roster. So by him quitting the team, if that is in fact what is happening, that does affect Clemson quite a bit. Moving on, and this was a big surprise for me, Texas defeated TCU 31-16. Their quarterback Ehlinger was 22 of 32 for 255 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he rushed for another 11 yards with another touchdown. Okay, BYU over McNeese State 30-3. LSU defeated Louisiana Tech 38-21. I originally said that I felt like Burrow would show up this week and his stats would improve drastically. I was wrong. He was 16 of 28 for 191 yards. He's a smart quarterback. Maybe he's not as good of a passer as I thought he was, but LSU continues to win, so we'll see how this goes. They've actually moved up to number 5, so they're just outside of the top 4. Moving on, and this is the big one, Kentucky. They've moved up to number 17. They defeated Mississippi State 28-7. They didn't just win, they took care of business. And Kentucky is looking extremely good defensively. And on offense, quarterback Wilson, 8 of 14, 71 yards, 1 interception. But that's not the story. The story is Benny Snell, 25 carries, 165 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He is an NFL back, and he is a great player for Kentucky. And they look extremely good right now. They got South Carolina coming up this week, and that is going to be a huge game. Moving on, we got Oklahoma defeated Army 28-21. Not a very good showing. Oklahoma is at number 6. After starting out on fire, they're starting to look a little bit human now. Just get Kyler Murray's numbers real quick. He was 11 of 15, 165 yards with 3 touchdowns. And he also rushed for 71 yards with another touchdown. So he continues to put up impressive numbers, but the team as a whole, Army could be a bye with that wishbone option and all that stuff they do. So I'm not knocking them 100%. Just in order to get back in the mix, they're going to need to pick it up. Which I guess they're still in the mix, but if they want to stay there, they're going to have to pick it up, because somebody could show up and beat them. Moving on, Texas Tech at number 25 defeated Oklahoma State 41-17. Auburn defeated Arkansas 34-3. Michigan State over Indiana 35-21. Wisconsin defeated Iowa 28-17, and Washington defeated Arizona State 27-20. But the big game, the big game in the West in the Pac-12 was Oregon against Stanford. Stanford went to Oregon, and it was a great game. Oregon actually had Stanford beat. All they had to do was kneel on the ball. They ended up fumbling. Stanford ends up getting the ball, driving down and scoring with a few seconds left, forcing overtime. And They end up winning the game in overtime, 38-31. Costello was 19-26 for 327 yards and 3 touchdowns. Bryce Love had 89 yards on 19 carries with 1 touchdown. The star, Justin Herbert from Oregon, was 26-33 for 346 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. And the running back, Verdell, was 20 carries for 115 yards and 1 touchdown. This game was extremely fun. It was a good game, probably the game I enjoyed out of all of them. Oregon honestly really should have won the game, but they didn't. So you got to give Stanford their props, and they got a huge test coming up this weekend, going on the road against Notre Dame. So speaking of which, I'm going to go ahead and just go over a few quick games of the top 25 this coming weekend. I'm going to start with Stanford and Notre Dame. This looks to be a good game. Stanford runs a really basic offense. They try to just run right at you and, do some play action in here or there. Notre Dame with Ian Book, they now have a little bit more balance with their offense. I feel like defensively Notre Dame is going to be way too good. Just do a basic lineup and try to go right at them. I feel like Notre Dame offensively will be able to get enough points on the board to get it done. I don't see a whole ton of points being scored because Stanford's tough defensively. But I'm going to say 27-17 or so, or 27-14, somewhere in that area. But I'm definitely going with Notre Dame. Moving on, we got Syracuse at undefeated going to Clemson, also undefeated. I believe Trevor Lawrence is starting to come into his own. And granted, as long as he stays healthy, Clemson is going to be a force. Their passing offense has really picked up. They can already run the ball. And Syracuse at 4-0 is not to be underestimated whatsoever. So I believe Syracuse will hang tough for a little bit, but I feel like Clemson is just way too talented on both sides of the ball, and I believe Clemson will pull away in this one, and I'm going to say 38-14 or somewhere in that area. Moving on, I'm not going to go over every game. I just want to go over the marquee games this week. If like Alabama's playing a scrub, Michigan State's playing a scrub, these teams should win. Georgia's playing Tennessee, which at this point you can go ahead and call Tennessee a scrub. A big one that I'm interested in is West Virginia going to Texas Tech. Texas Tech coming off a big win over Oklahoma State. West Virginia with Will Grier at quarterback. This absolutely could be a game you could put on episode alert. Me personally, I feel like West Virginia just really is that good. They maybe have the best receiving core in the entire country. Will Grier is extremely deadly accurate throwing the ball. I believe West Virginia will win this game, although a close game. I'm going to say 38-28 or somewhere around there. Texas Tech will be able to put some points on the board. All right, let's see. Another marquee game. Not necessarily a marquee game, but you got Mississippi State going, or Florida going to Mississippi State. Mississippi State coming off a loss to Kentucky. Florida coming off a loss coming off a big win against Tennessee. Both teams lost to Kentucky, roughly around the same amount. With Mississippi State being at home, I'm going to give them a slight edge. I don't see a huge amount of points. I'm going to say Mississippi State 27-24, and we'll go with that. Moving on, we got Virginia Tech going to Duke. Duke at 4-0. They broke the top 25. Virginia Tech just recently slipped out of the top 25 after losing to Old Dominion. But you know what? I'm calling for the upset. I believe Virginia Tech, they're going to be itching for a win to get the bad taste out of their mouth after last week. They're better than what they showed. They're a better football team than that, and I feel like they'll put that on display this week. All right, moving on. We got some big games here at the bottom. We're going to go with Oregon at 3-1, going to California at 3-0. I see Oregon rebounding and getting a win against California on the road. It's going to be a decent game. I'm going to say 34-31 Oregon. Mississippi, Ole Miss going to LSU at 5-0. Ole Miss can normally put up some points. I don't see them putting up a lot of points against this LSU defense. Burrow will continue to manage that offense, and they will get it done 28-17. Number 20 BYU going to number 11 Washington. Another really interesting game. I personally believe Washington will continue to win out west, and I believe they win this game 35-20. Moving on, here's a big game. South Carolina going to Kentucky. Kentucky 4-0. South Carolina really put a good whooping on Vanderbilt last week, who was looking good after coming off a close loss on the road against Notre Dame. They lost to South Carolina at home pretty decisively. South Carolina going into Kentucky. Both these teams, with the exception of the loss to Georgia for South Carolina, have looked really good. And honestly, I believe this is going to be one of the better games of the weekend. But you know what? I'm going to buy into the Kentucky hype. I really believe they're just good this year. And Stoops has done a hell of a job. I mean, what can you say? And I'm going to say Kentucky holds South Carolina off, let's say 42-38. I see some points being scored. Actually, you know what? I'm going to dial it back a little bit. I'm going to say 31-28. That sounds a little bit better. 31-28. Both defenses are decent, so I don't see 30-40 points unless they go to overtime. Moving on, the next game will be 4-0 Stanford going to Notre Dame. I actually already talked about that one. The game of the week will be 4-0 Ohio State going to Happy Valley to play 4-0 Penn State. That should be an excellent game. As good as Penn State has looked the last week or two, I feel like Ohio State is just better man for man. And I believe Ohio State, oh man, with Haskins and his deadly accuracy, it's just crazy. Ohio State got a lot of good backs. They're strong on defense. TCU made good plays on Ohio State because TCU is good. It's not because Ohio State's defense was lacking. TCU is just a good football team. They didn't look that way last week against Texas. I don't think that has anything to do with them not being any good as much as it does just the fact that they're playing Texas and Texas is in their head. I believe Ohio State and Penn State will be, it'll be a good game, but I feel like Ohio State's athleticism and their strong defense, Bosa being out, is definitely a concern. McSorley will keep Penn State in this game. This just it's going to be a great game for the Big Ten this weekend. And I'm going to say Ohio State goes on the road and steals a win 37-28 or 37-31. Somewhere in that area. I feel like both teams are going to be able to get some points on the board. But, yeah, this is going to be a good football game. And with that, that pretty much wraps up this video. I put my recap and my preview all in the same video just because just short on time at the moment, and it's harder to get videos done. But thanks everybody for watching. Please comment on the video, like, dislike, whatever it is, whatever your opinion. I'd love to hear it. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Like, share, and hit the subscribe button down at the bottom. And I will be back next week. Hopefully I will be able to do 2 separate videos. And I don't like doing long videos. Like this video's already carried on long enough. But thanks for watching again, guys. And like I said, please chime in next week and check out the videos. And I am Coach Carroll. This is Sports Banner 38. And we are out. Everybody have a wonderful evening.